Sometimes stress comes from procrastination. Sometimes stress comes from overload, feeling overloaded and overwhelmed by the volume of activities. Sometimes stress comes from a style, a lifestyle, in terms of the sort of choices that a person makes.
Conflicts at home or in the workplace, pressure to get things done on time, or change in attitude or atmosphere. All sorts of things cause stress.
I had to get something finished on a job, and because my dad had to come in later on that day and do something that only he could do. So he had to come in and do it. And I waited and I did other things and I had to run somewhere and do something. So, you know, I was trying to scramble to get it done, and he got there and it wasn't, and paint's got to dry. So he couldn't do what he had to do. So it kind of messed him up.
Stress for me is caused when the pressure is on to get something done. So it's a feeling of lack of time, or a feeling that a lot needs to be done. It's also maybe a little bit of when there's things to be done that are a little bit maybe unknown. So that stresses me out.
It's the little things that build up to become a big issue, which affects scheduling, payments, anything related to business. You know, Friday we pay out on Friday, payroll. I think payroll at the time was running for us about between $6,000 and $7,000 a week, and you know, we've run out of money. The projects take too long. People don't want to pay on time. Pretty much at that point I hit shutdown. I mean, I couldn't do anything. Couldn't drive. I couldn't think.
Believe it or not, stress can be good. The same part of the brain fires up when you're excited and when you're worried. Think about it. Butterflies in your stomach, sweaty palms, and sleeplessness. The same symptoms, whether you're giving a big speech or going on a first date.
That's what gives you your juice. What makes you exciting, ready to meet your audience and be interesting and entertaining.
Some of the positive effects of stress are intensity. An intensity that will keep you driven, to be driven and motivated. There are people who constantly are on. They are prepared to give 120, 360%. That's good stress, when they have the capacity to turn it into positive energy to get the job done.
The positive effects of stress for me is that it's going to give me the energy and motivation to work through whatever's causing the stress.
I could perform well under stress. Sometimes I like it. My dad tends to put a lot of stress on me, basically by rushing. My dad could work very fast and work well at the same time, but I'm not there yet. I haven't been working 35 years or whatever in the business, so I can't really do that, but he'll try to make me. And it's good because it pushes me along and it teaches me that I could do the job well and still go faster rather than just taking my time and doing a good job. And, you know, time is money in our business because everything's hourly. When we pay our employees, so we have to get things done. So that's how it's worked well for me.
Good stress, also known as eustress, will give you energy and motivation. But it also inspires creativity that may help you to develop new ways of doing things.
So a little bit of stress every day is not that bad. It kind of keeps you on edge. It makes you a little bit more creative.
Well, stress is very invigorating. It's not all negative. Stress follows a bell curve. So there's a peak level of stimulation that stress can provide, which also corresponds to peak performance.
So stress can be positive. Stress gives you energy and motivation to get the job done. It inspires creativity, and it can drive you to deliver your best work. Unfortunately, stress can also be negative. Stress that stops you from being productive, inhibits your ability to communicate, or cuts your creativity is bad stress.
For me, stress feels like there's lots of anxiety building. The adrenaline's going on. I kind of feel tight, clenched.
When I hit peak stress levels, it feels like your heart's about to fall out of your body. It just keeps pounding and it won't settle down. And then all of a sudden your head just starts spinning and you're short of breath. It's like some kind of asthma attack.
Headache. First of all, I get a headache a lot. And then after that, a headache, I don't know. Sometimes I get tired. You know, if I get stressed out on the job and I'm worrying about one problem and I, eventually take care of it, I get exhausted. And then I can't focus.
Well, stress can wear the body down. It can create headaches. It can create backaches. It can create heart disease. Stomach disorders come from stress. There's some very negative things that clearly are associated, including attitude, emotions. All these things can be affected by stress. Depression can have a profound impact on a person's health and well-being.
It's all in how you deal with it. Stress affects different people different ways. It just depends how you approach it.
Okay, if you were to ask me 2 years ago how I would handle stress, I wouldn't know how to answer because I couldn't handle stress, because my thoughts then were pick up the pace and the stress will go away, which is completely wrong. You need to control it. You need to find a way that you can clear your head and reorganize and bring everything back into perspective.
When you can't keep things in perspective, stress can escalate to distress, and then it's time to get some help.
If you could get stressed out, that you don't take care of the problem, at some point then you become in distress, and then that's hopefully, or can be, like the end of the line. I mean, at that point it might be too late. My business, you could be in a huge fight at that point with a customer. You could get thrown off a job. You could not get paid.
When I'm stressed, I'm feeling the anxiety, I'm feeling energy, and I'm feeling like though all these things are going on about me, that I have the capability of working it through. When I'm distressed is when I'm feeling almost helpless.
If stress is affecting you emotionally, physically, or spiritually, then something has to change.
The best way to manage stress is to be at least aware of what you need at that particular time. And if you don't know what you need, seek professional assistance, whether that's a counselor or someone who is trained to listen.
Even skipping a meal or missing a few hours of sleep can increase your stress level.
Human beings need to sleep. We need 8 hours. Human beings need a good diet. We need the proper fuel for our brain to function, our body to function, and we need exercise. The human form is made to move. And in our corporate lives, in our cubbies with our computers and our TVs and our ready-made meals, we start to deny our bodies some of these basic needs, and stress starts to creep up on us and take a hold.
When stress is negative, it stops you from being productive. Even though it affects people in different ways, stress will physically wear you down. If you can't handle stress on your own, it will escalate to distress. And if you think you're in distress, seek professional help. Stress affects people in different ways because everyone has their own way of dealing with it.
But there are lots of little venues that you can use. I personally work out my stress in kinetic ways. I move or exercise or get up and walk around or do something different. Other people, they need some quiet time. They need to do something completely different.
Experts suggest that staying healthy actually affects how you react to stress. If you eat right, sleep, and exercise, things may not seem as stressful.
So your beginning state of nutrition, rest, sleep, exercise really makes a big difference in how you'll perceive an event and how you ultimately handle it.
I think sleep and relaxation and exercise are very important in helping balance stress in your life. Unfortunately, people don't always have time to do all of it, so I think for different people there's a different balance. And for myself, I need to be able to relax and get my sleep so that I can function, exercise when I can.
If you follow that advice, you'll be prepared to handle stress with the best of your ability. So when that stressful situation arises, you'll be able to stay calm and tackle it head on.
And one way of doing that is to take a deep breath, center yourself, see what the situation is. Next, you have to be sort of an objective observer while you're acting on whatever the situation is.
The best way for me to deal with stress is sometimes to take a step away from whatever the situation I'm in. Because if I am able to step outside of that situation, I can calm myself down a little bit and I'll be able to think more clearly, and that way develop a game plan.
Reframing is a process where you stop and you look at the situation that's causing you the stress and you try to think about it in a different way. You go to, number one, a worst case scenario. Okay, let's really talk about this. What am I afraid of? What's the worst thing that can happen? And let's talk about what it would feel like if that would happen, almost like a desensitization. The other thing is to take a look at that and then just kind of helicopter up and say, okay, there's a perspective on this other than my perspective. What is it? Let me think about that.
It will also help to develop a support group of friends and colleagues who you admire and you know will be honest with you.
People who experience the least stress in their life have a close group of friends and people that they can confide in and talk to. So talking about it is very helpful.
You must identify those people in your life, in your network, who are stress reducers, who have that effect on you. Identify them. Reinforce those relationships. Make sure that you always have someone who can tell you the truth, no matter how harsh or how hard.
I have people that come to me and just, they tell me. I'm fortunate enough to have people that will be like, relax. What's your problem? And a lot of people don't have that. So it's like an eye-opener.
And identify the things that help you to reduce stress in your life. You may need to count to 10 or go for a drive. Just take note of what stress reducers work for you and remember to use them when you need to.
I come home every day and I walk my dog for like at least 20 minutes, half hour every day. And that's fun because my dog's just a maniac, so he pretty much gets me in a good mood almost all the time.
Actually practicing stress management techniques are something that you can do before the stressful situation comes about. So if you're really good at focusing in and doing some self-hypnosis sorts of things, or if you're good at focusing in on something that makes you feel very comfortable, then when the time comes you can automatically almost relive those kinds of experiences and de-escalate the stress that's happening.
We know that stress affects everybody differently. But there are some key things you can do in order to handle stress effectively. Take good care of yourself. It will affect how you react to stress. When a stressful situation arises, stay calm, regulate your breathing, take a step back and look at the situation objectively. Check to see where the problem originates. Acknowledge what's going on. Identify the things that you're doing that add to the stress. And identify the things you can do to reduce the stress. Identify your own stress management techniques. Decide what to take care of now and what to leave for later. Rely on support systems for help if you need it. Having a life outside of work also helps to eliminate stress. By taking time for yourself, you're able to keep things in perspective.
I have an old car that I like to play with and kind of mess around with. And I do a lot with my dad with that too. So that's one of the things that kind of separates work. For me and my dad, we have a hobby together. So that's really cool for our relationship.
A life that gives you some chance to laugh, to have fun, to have some recreation is just crucial for you to be a fully functioning sort of human being on the job or at home.
I think it's very important to have activities that you're involved with outside of work. I think it's important to have fulfillment outside of work so that not all of your energy is focused on one thing and you're more of a whole person.
Yeah, you have to have a life outside of work because otherwise work controls you. And then that's what starts running your life is work. And do you want that to run your life? I personally don't.
There are times when you need to separate yourself from how you make your money. to commit yourself to hobbies, to pursuing dreams that may turn into a career, but to be in a situation where you allow yourself the freedom to relax.
Research studies have shown time and time again, those folks with what we call a support system, a network, whether it's your friends, whether it's a sports, an activity, causes that you belong to, something outside of work is essential to managing stress.
But remember that having a life outside of work does not mean burning the candle at both ends. You'll lose the ability to be productive if you're burned out. So take time for yourself and keep things in perspective. Practice your hobbies and pursue your dreams, but don't overdo it. So the next time you get stressed out, here's what you want to remember. Stress can be good. A little bit motivates you to get the job done and inspires creativity. But stress can also be bad. It can prevent you from being productive, inhibit your ability to communicate, cut your creativity, and hurt you physically. Stress affects different people in different ways. It depends on how you approach it. Eat right, sleep, and exercise. So when a stressful situation arises, you'll be able to handle it with the best of your ability. When you feel stressed, stay calm and try to look at the situation objectively. Identify the things that you're doing that add to the stress and identify the things that you can do to reduce it. Rely on support systems for help if you need it. Identify your own stress management techniques and practice them. Have a life outside of work. Take time for yourself and do things you enjoy. And if you can't keep things in perspective, know that stress will escalate to distress, and you need to get professional help for that. Most people do have trouble dealing with stress, so knowing how to manage it effectively will put you a step above the rest. Maximize the good stress, minimize the bad stress. Trust me, the people around you will thank you for it.